Hey everybody, my name is Josh LaFleur from Late Start Piano. Today we're going to be talking about your worst enemy when it comes to learning the piano. It's the number one reason why people quit playing the piano. It's the number one reason why people fail at the piano. And it's the number one reason why you're not improving, even though you might be practicing at the piano. This one thing is like the antichrist of piano learning. It's the absolute worst, most evil thing that you can allow into your being or allow to take hold of yourself. And that number one thing, if you have been watching this channel for any length of time, you can probably guess it. That number one thing is a lack of consistency. This is by far the number one problem that most people have when it comes to learning the piano. They're just not consistent. They will play for 3 hours on Tuesday, then they won't touch the piano until Saturday, and they'll play for an hour on Saturday, then they won't touch it again until Monday. They'll do 20 minutes, then they won't touch it again until the next weekend. They'll do an hour the next weekend, and they're just completely unstructured and completely not consistent at all when they're playing with their piano practicing schedule. And not being consistent does a lot of things. It's kind of like if you have ever lifted weights before, or you lift weights now and you're kind of a gym junkie. You know that, let's say it's holiday season and it's Christmas time, end of the year time, like we just had Thanksgiving, and maybe you are traveling, maybe you're seeing friends and family, whatever it is, but for whatever reason, you are not actually in the gym. You're not lifting weights, and you haven't lifted weights, let's say, in a week or 2 weeks that you took off, that you haven't been to the gym. That first day back, when you get back into the gym, that is going to be a rough day for you because your body is going to be sore. You now have to get readjusted to the gym again. It's like you were up here and then you took 2 weeks off and your body starts to slide down to this level down here, and now it's not used to working out. You've taken a step back. And you can feel this. Again, if you have lifted weights or you lift weights now and you've taken a week or two off or more and you go back to the gym, you can't lift what you used to be able to lift. Right? You can't run for as long as you used to be able to run. You kind of have to start back, maybe not from ground zero, depending on how long your break was, but you definitely have to start at a lower level than you were before you took the break. Same exact thing with the piano. It's a use it or lose it situation. So if you don't really practice the piano, or you do practice, but like I just said, you're not consistent, you don't actually learn the skills or the songs that you're practicing. So for example, if we take an easy example, if you take something like a method book, the method books like Alfred's All in One, or you have the Faber and Faber method books, whatever that is, and you're trying to learn a song in that book. You might be practicing it for 30 minutes one day, which is great. But then if you take 3 days off in a row and you don't practice that song, when you go back to try to learn it, you're going to be not as good as you used to be. You're going to be kind of sliding down the level. There's going to be a certain section of that song that maybe you forgot. Maybe you don't have a certain section quite under your fingers yet. So now you have to kind of redo some of that work that you did. Maybe you forgot what fingers you're supposed to be using on which notes. So now you have to figure that out again, right? It's the same thing. Or even if you take something more technical, like a Hanon exercise, or you take something like scales, or you take something like arpeggios or octaves, or something like that. If you work on that every day, let's say for a month, and then you take a week off, when you go back to work on that same arpeggio that you could play with 2 octaves, no problem, in both hands, now you might not be able to do it as well. You might not be able to do it at all. You might only be able to do it with one hand. You might be able to do it at a slower tempo, right? It's the same thing. Consistency matters so much. Like I said before, you need to either use it or you lose it. And even if you have 20 minutes per day, you can fit all of this in. So it's not like I'm telling you you need to practice for 3 hours every single day. What I'm telling you is you need to practice consistently. So if it's at least 20 minutes a day, I would say at least 20 minutes. Try to do that consistently. I would try to do every day if you can. That's obviously the best. If you can do 7 days a week, 20 minutes a day, it's only 20 minutes. So hopefully you can do that. If not, I would try to do at least 4 days a week. That would be the absolute bare minimum. If you can do 20 minutes per day, 4 days a week, that would be the bare minimum for you to actually be able to see and feel progress when you are playing the piano. Anything less than that, you will improve still. You will improve if you're consistent, but it's going to be a lot harder. It's going to be more of a longer road for you to actually notice that improvement if you do 3 days a week for 20 minutes. Just do the 4 days a week, 20 minutes a day, and you're kind of in that sweet spot. You're at that bare minimum where you can see noticeable improvement within a week, within a month, whatever that time frame is. Okay. And really, consistency is the key, because you want to be able to do the things that you need to do. And this is, let me explain a little bit. This is really for anything in life. Anything in life you need to be more consistent at if you want to improve. That's just the way it is. Like I said, piano is the same way. The gym is the same way. Any other thing you want to learn, whether it's knitting, basket weaving, skateboarding, anything else, you need to be consistent. Another thing is, you don't even necessarily need to be practicing quote unquote correctly, because if you are practicing consistently enough, and as long as you're not practicing in a way that's causing physical damage to you, then you're going to get better. It's not like you have to do, okay, I need to do 10 different arpeggio exercises with 2 octaves, and I have to do it at this many beats per minute, and I have to do it with this finger and this finger, and after that, I have to do a hand-in exercise, and I have to do hand-in exercise number 1, number 2, and number 7, and I have to do it in one hand, and then I have to do it in both hands, and I have to do it in 3 octaves and 10 octaves and all of that. You don't need to do that. You want to be structured in your practice. You should have it laid out if you're only practicing for 20 minutes per day. But at the same time, to help illustrate my points of how consistently is the number one reason that people succeed, or the number one lack of consistency being the number one reason why people fail, is if you just sit down at the piano 4 days a week, 20 minutes per day, and you don't have anything planned at all, even though you should, but let's say you don't, and you just start playing stuff, either you're playing from a book or maybe you're coming up with your own things, you are going to get good at the piano. You're going to get good. Even if you have no idea what you're doing, if you don't have a practice schedule, if you don't have a book, if you don't have a teacher to help you, if you just sit down and start playing the keys, you're going to improve. As long as you're doing that consistently, you will get better, guaranteed. Even if you have no idea what you're doing, you don't have a teacher, you don't have a book, you're not following this consistent, structured practice routine, but the consistency will make up for all of that. And of course, probably the most famous example of somebody like this who played piano, but they never took a formal lesson, they never did scales, they didn't know any music theory, they never did anything like that, is Paul McCartney. And I would say he can play the piano pretty well. If you've ever heard him play, and you've ever heard some of the songs that the Beatles made with the piano during that time, it's pretty good. And I understand Paul McCartney was a savant level type person. He was a genius musically. But at the same time, he was also very consistent. He was very consistent with his music. He played guitar consistently. He played bass consistently. He played the piano consistently. And again, he didn't follow a set routine. He just sat down and just played. And if you do that consistently enough, just sit down and play, because consistency is so important, you will improve. And that's really the whole point, the whole message I'm sharing with you today. You might not be Paul McCartney, but you will improve. You will be better than you were yesterday, as long as you're consistent, as long as you're hitting that 4 days a week for at least 20 minutes a day. With all that said, I do have a free PDF. It's a free guide on my website, www.latestartpiano.com. This free guide has 34 essential tips for adult beginner piano players. It has everything that you need to know to get started. We talk about practice strategies, we talk about your mindset and approach, and we talk about music theory. And at the very end, we'll show you how to play your first song note by note. Again, that's completely free. It's just on my website, www.latestartpiano.com. Make sure you put in the 3 W's. Once you're on that page, click on that big bright purple button, enter in your name and email address, and you will have instant access to that guide. In addition, if you want to take it a step further, if you want to get better faster, then shoot me an email. My email address is latestartpiano@gmail.com. I am offering lessons right now via Zoom. Send me an email again, latestartpiano@gmail.com. We'll set up a day and a time for you that works best, and we'll help you achieve your piano goals faster than you thought before. Hope that all helps. Again, my name is Josh LaFleur with Late Start Piano.